Hey everyone, welcome to the Roundtable with Vienna Whyte, Season 1, Episode 58. I'm your host, Millie Rouge, from the band Vienna Whyte here in Edmonton, Canada. This Roundtable is a YEG music production. Let's get to introducing our guests we have on the show today. We have our first guest, which is Sarah Vittor from one half of Fox and Bones from Portland, Oregon.
Hi.
We have Carina Bruwer, I hope I'm saying that right, from Cape Town, South Africa. And we have Amanda McCarthy from Londonderry, New Hampshire. So welcome, ladies. We are so excited to have you all on the show today. Thank you for taking the time to chat with me on Zoom. I want to quickly just ask my very first question. It's a very simple question. I just want to know how your day is going so far. I know for Carina, it's nighttime. It's evening for you. So how has your day been so far?
Exactly.
Your day's almost done.
Yeah, exactly. It's winter here in South Africa, which is not exactly Canada, but you know, we get down to about 12 degrees in the day, and that's pretty cold for me. I do a lot of swimming as well. I have to swim every day to just keep some sanity going. Don't know if it's working, but I'm still swimming. So, and now that it's lockdown, all the pools are closed. So I'm swimming in my own little outdoor pool. So today was awesome because it was sunny and it was about 18 degrees and I didn't get hypothermia. So it's an awesome
so
day.
It's a good day. That's incredible.
And I work and some action. So
yeah.
Do you? I got it. I have to interject. I totally did the American thing because we use Fahrenheit. So when she said 12 degrees, I thought it was like
like that's cold.
Swimming, and I was like, oh my goodness! And then it clicked. In America,
I'll take it.
Out of touch.
Yeah.
I'll take it. We'll make it sound even more dramatic than it is.
Exactly. In Canada here, we also use degrees. So for me, that was like, I didn't think twice about it. I want to ask, do you typically swim in, like, do you have any oceans or kind of like lake areas that you swim in as well? Or is it just typically in pool areas?
Yeah, so I'm actually sort of known as an open water swimmer, a marathon swimmer, and that happens in the ocean. I'm ironically not great in cold water, and here we've got the Atlantic Ocean, which is pretty cold.
Yeah.
But so most of my training I actually do in pools that are a bit more comfortable. We've got a beautiful pool on the ocean. It's called the Sea Point Pool. It's about 50 meters. Yeah. Salt water, and it's my happy place. Which has also been closed for the past 3 months. So yeah, typically I train in the pool. The ocean has just reopened, so I'm going to take my wetsuit soon and go and freeze there. Yeah. But when I do my more competitive stuff now, I usually find some warmer water. So I go to the Indian Ocean, which is up the coast here, or just I travel to Europe and I swim in the Mediterranean. And I like the distances of anything between 20 and 35 kilometers is my thing. So
that is so cool. I love to swim, but I'm not a swimmer like that. So that's incredible to hear.
You need a good dose of obsessive compulsive disorder for that. But,
exactly.
Yeah, that's me.
That's incredible. Now, Amanda, I actually wanted to ask you, I've never actually heard a lot about New Hampshire. So can you kind of tell us like what your day's been like and what you've kind of been up to in the quarantine life, I guess, too?
So my day has been all right. New Hampshire's kind of weird because people think of New Hampshire and they think of like cows, but I live on the border of Massachusetts, so I basically live in Mass Hampshire, which is there's a lot more going on. Yeah. We're in phase, I want to say 3 of reopening up, so I've actually been playing live outside in socially distanced dining.
Oh, that's awesome.
Wow.
But today is one of my days off, so I was pretty lazy up until about half an hour ago when I put some makeup on.
Yeah, I love it. And now, Sarah, actually, you're pretty close to me. We're actually not that far apart from each other. You're in Portland, but how has your day been going so far?
Well, it just started.
Yeah.
It's 10:30 in the morning here. So we went on a camping trip over the weekend, kind of the first time like seeing some friends, and
that's awesome.
It was mostly music friends, and we all just like performed for each other. There was a stage out there, and
nice.
So it was really fun. It was kind of the first time that like we've gotten to feel, because we've done a lot of like live stream concerts and like socially distanced driveway concerts, but to actually just like sit in a room, play for your friends, listen to your friends play. Because of that though, like we were exhausted. So we got home on Monday, and then yesterday, like I felt like my voice was going out. And so yeah, it's been kind of a sleeping in and like catching up on work kind of week for me.
It's like a self-care kind of day. I love it.
Yes.
Well, thank you so much. I actually want to hear more now about your ladies' musical journeys, because I know you all have very diverse journeys. So I actually want to, let's just start with Carina. Can you tell us a little bit more about your musical path that you've taken so far and kind of where you started and where you're at today with your music?
Yeah, sure. Well, I'm a flute player, this guy. And I'm classically trained. So I've been playing for most of my life. I started with classical piano and then went over to the flute. I got my sort of postgraduate degree in classical performance. And then I decided to maybe move away from that a little bit, or 180 degrees. And I started playing jazz and just jamming with blues bands and with contemporary artists. And I found that this was really what I've been needing my whole life. So even though I've went full on classical, and I mean, I've got all the chops, I don't play much classical at all anymore. And yeah, I've just been jamming and playing contemporary music wherever it goes. The flute isn't, it's a limited instrument in terms of the range of volume, and for some people the expression is just very limited, but I've just made it my mission in life to really kind of to take it one step further or 10 steps further and to just see what this instrument is capable of.
Yeah.
And I just love that. So I just try and get past the limitations. I'm inspired by players like Ian Anderson from Jethro Tull, and just really throwing all the rules away and just making music and expressing whatever is in your soul through whatever instrument you've got. Like these are the cards I'm dealt with, you know. I'm never going to be as good on any other instrument as I am on the flute. So I just try and forget what it is and make music.
That's amazing.
So yeah, it's awesome. So I'm part of an instrumental pop band with two great friends of mine. One plays electric cello, one plays electric violin. So it's kind of like classical pop. We do a little bit of cheese, but we also do a lot of jazz, and we do a lot of sort of whatever goes, and it's very easy on the ear and people love it. But then at the moment, and what I've been doing most of the past couple of years, is just to record for a variety of styles. I'm listed on quite a few of these international platforms for home recording sessions, and it's just so awesome to be invited by people from across the world to play whatever style it is that they're creating, and it's really a blessing to be able to be exposed to so many different genres and to just really trust your ear and to go with whatever there is. I mean, the other day I actually collaborated with a guy from Canada.
Hey, there you go.
He's an amazing singer-songwriter, but he said he's got writer's block, so he wants to recreate a Jethro Tull song, which he then did, Locomotive Breath, and he could do it all, but except for play the flute.
Right. That's amazing.
So I did the flute solo, and we then we did a video of me in the forest and him in his forest in Canada, and we did a lovely combo, and it was absolutely awesome. It's something that I'll remember forever.
That's incredible.
Yeah. So
that's such a special experience. Yeah.
Yeah, it's, you know, through the internet and just modern technology, the world is potentially your oyster. Here in South Africa, we're quite challenged. Our industry is on its knees at the moment, especially with the coronavirus pandemic. Before the pandemic, we were already struggling, you know, the industry's been dropping together with the economy, together with just the way the music industry has been going worldwide. And it's been really, you know, for some, it's really depressing, for me too.
Yeah.
But then just to be able to continue in one way or another, it's the best we can do. So yeah, I try to just enjoy each project that comes around.
Absolutely. Yeah. And that's actually one of the reasons I started this show with my band, because we were like, we need something to do and we're bored during coronavirus. And we have to make the best of it. But I've met so many incredible people from this show that I'm like, when I visit Portland, I'm coming for you, or when I'm going to come hang out with you and we're going to play shows together. So, and the same thing, when you guys come to Canada, I'm going to find shows for you. I'm going to put you in places.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. So Sarah, I was actually looking at your Instagram a little bit last night, and I wanted to learn kind of more about your band and kind of how you guys started and where you're at today. I've seen a huge growth from you guys. So can you talk more about your band?
Sure. Yeah. So I always like to start with my musical journey of how it started, because it's kind of unique. I've been a musician my whole life, singing and playing the guitar, but like, you know, I just never thought it was a real career path. And so I just did it as a hobby, and worked in the corporate world. And, you know, I was working at a PR firm and just kept looking out the window being like, I don't think I'm supposed to be here. And then I eventually quit my job and just bought a one-way ticket to Peru and started like backpacking around South America, and then ended up crewing on a sailboat in the Bahamas over a period of about 7 months. And during that time, I kind of rediscovered music, and I ended up buying like a cheap guitar in Peru, and I was just traveling with it on my back and playing covers for people, and like, you know, in little bars and stuff. And that kind of eventually led to me writing my own music, and, you know, very timidly showing it to people that I'd met, and then being like, that's actually pretty good. Maybe you should keep doing it. So like when I came home from that trip, I had spent all my money, but I was like, my parents let me live with them for a little bit, and because they were excited that I was doing music. And so I just kind of got to get on my feet and start, you know, working on my own stuff. So I was solo to begin with. And I've started as a country artist, and then I kind of moved into having a 5-piece rock band where I like dress like a superhero. I'm really into dressing up. So characters and costumes are huge for me. So that's, my stage name is Sarah Wild, and that's like what I was doing. And then I met Scott, my partner. I was playing a solo show at this, you know, little Sunday night showcase. And apparently the story is, he had been, you know, just kind of online stalking me for a while. He knew who I was and wanted to meet me, and like was trying to figure out who our mutual friends were so he could get like an invitation to my show. And it's kind of funny because his band was really like popular in Portland, and they were throwing these huge parties that everybody knew about. And so I thought he was like kind of famous. So
big deal.
I wish we were here together just so that you could see like how not cool we actually are. But that was like my first moment, was like being like, oh, like this is like a cool guy, you know? And he baited me with, you know, hey, if you ever want to write some songs together. So we that was in January of 2016, and we started writing, like, we were both in rock bands and started writing like harmony driven folk music totally as a side thing. Put out a video, and then it kind of caught the attention of a booking agent that wanted to take us to Europe. And so our very first tour ever as a band, we're like, okay, I guess we're a band now. We can come up with a name. We're gonna, you know, start recording, and did our very first tour in Europe. And then since then, it's been kind of like touring has been our main thing. So we spend, up until coronavirus, we would spend about 9 months of the year on the road, in the US and Europe. And just kind of building, you know, I mean, it literally started, we were starting as like a concept album. And so it was like, you know, the story of Fox and Bones were these characters that we created this like Bonnie and Clyde adventure story around, and all the songs that we wrote were part of that story. And then it's just kind of moved on into, you know, what it is now, which is kind of like a retro folk with like a little bit of soul, and lots of harmony. And we're working on our third full length album right now. So
that's incredible.
That's kind of where we've come to.
That's so amazing. Thank you for sharing more about your own journey.
Yeah, you bet.
I can't wait to see more from you guys as well too. Now, Amanda, I want to hear kind of in New Hampshire, what kind of your music scene, music life, and musical journey has been so far for yourself.
So I started about when I was 15, and it was a very common story. I picked up a guitar. I idolized Taylor Swift. I was writing country music. And somewhere around when I was 20, 21, I kind of hit a rebellious phase and dived into like pop rock, borderline pop punk music. And I've kind of landed somewhere in between. Like I'm kind of still a mix of pop, country, and rock. And I have like the personality of a rock kid, but I'm moving to Nashville in the fall. And so I've always been influenced by a lot of different things. And I've kind of tried to figure out how I can pull in different sounds, but still make it my sound. And New Hampshire has a really good music scene for like playing covers in bars. But as far as my original music goes, I feel like that lands me more in like the Boston area. I'm only an hour outside of Boston, so
Mm-hmm.
I usually just tell people I'm from both places, or if I'm super far away, I just say I'm from Boston.
Yeah. It's just easier to explain. I get that. For sure. Well, thank you ladies so much for sharing. It's so cool to hear about all of you, because I myself have never met you, just like our audience that's watching. So let's jump into talking about our topic of the day. I think you'll all have something interesting to say about this. So our topic for today is how to connect with your audience. Now, you all have kind of mentioned how you've played kind of your own separate ways in different parts of the world. So my very first question I kind of open up to all of you is, what is the significance when you're playing a live show of connecting with your audience members? Why do you think it's important, rather than just playing and not really caring about anyone in the crowd? Why is it important to truly connect with those people watching you? Maybe Sarah, do you want to kind of start and talk about your experience with your band and kind of why it's important for you guys to connect with your fans and audience members?
Sure. And it's a great topic because I feel like it's like the cornerstone of what we do.
Yeah.
Because I feel that music is so much more about the notes that you're singing, and the words that you're saying. You're not really, we're here to express ourselves, but the reason that people care about what we do is because we make them feel something. People become fans, they pay attention to you if you're making them feel something. And so, one thing that we have strive to do is really step away from, our own like needs and egos and stuff, and realize that like if people are here to hear music, they want to put their own experience into it. They want to, have a moment that's memorable. And we feel that, one of our biggest things on stage is telling stories of our time on the road, and being silly, and sometimes taking audience requests, and all of those. We do all those things at different types of shows, but really being able to step in and first of all read your audience, read the room. What type of place is it? What type of show are you going to put on? And then getting them involved in any way that you can, that makes sense for that room. It's just, it's what keeps people interested in anything that you're doing. And as musicians, I think that we're also entertainers, and we're here to be entertaining and inspiring. And so, it's just part of the job description. And yeah.
I love that you mentioned that it depends on where you are, right? Like you kind of have to adjust how you connect with people depending on, the type of gig that you're playing, or, the restaurant you're at, or, the festival you're playing. It really all depends, right? Because sometimes if you show up and you're ready to rock at like a senior's home, they might be like, whoa, like too much.
Exactly.
Scale it back here.
Like Amanda was saying with, playing cover gigs, like we do both. We do listening rooms, ticketed venues, and then also we fill our schedule with these like 3-hour cover gigs. And in those times, it's like people did not come there to see us, and sometimes they're not even that interested in there being music there. Right. And that's when we'll like shift to like, we'll play background music, but we'll shift to like taking requests from the audience. And then all of a sudden we have people who have been lifetime fans because we played their favorite song. Exactly. And then they got interested in our songs. And so, being able to read that.
And how about for yourself, Carina? I know with the flute, it might be a little bit different compared to when you're singing and vocally expressing yourself. How do you find you connect, and why do you think it's important to connect with your audience?
Well, I guess it's all about energy. If they wanted to, they could have listened to a CD or to nothing. So you are there to enhance an energy, and you're there to enhance an experience for people. And that's not just a one-way conversation at all. It's a two-way conversation. You want to be conversing with someone. As a performer, you don't really know who those people are really. You don't know what's going on in their lives, what's going on in their minds, but there is, to a certain extent, you can read the energy, and you can read what they're responding to, and it's give and take. It's like a dance, and that's when a musical performance is successful. It is when it's a dance. It's not just a give. It's not a one-way show. It's a conversation. And for me as a performer, it's when those conversations are happening beautifully. That's when I really feel this has been a truly memorable performance.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's about it. Obviously with with instrumental music, you're not really delivering a specific message necessarily, which is also lovely. It has so much potential because it's open for interpretation. So you can express whatever you're feeling, in the music, and someone will receive it in a slightly different way. But there's still connection, and it's something that transcends words and description, and that is what makes music so magical.
Absolutely. Yeah, I completely agree. 100%. And I kind of want to know your opinion on this. Why do you think it's important to connect with others in your shows?
I actually thought Sarah summed it up very brilliantly, especially with my experiences. I do a lot of the 3-hour gigs, and I'll do senior homes, and then I'll do, tour gigs where I'm playing my music.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I have met more fans of mine at cover gigs that I've then kind of been able, after I play their song or a bunch of songs they like, I throw in one of my songs and just slowly rope them in. And I know a lot of people sometimes kind of look down on the cover gigs because they're not original gigs, but to me, I feel like they've been responsible for most of my career, and kind of playing with the crowd a bit, taking their requests. I like to do a lot of mashups and just surprise them. I keep them on their toes, and again, just reading the crowd. I could do anything from like a really formal show where I'm prim and proper, where if I'm at a rowdy bar, I'll be swearing along with the crowd. And I don't think it's necessarily putting on a face, but just allowing different sides of myself to show and remaining authentic in that sense.
Yeah.
And I hit the point where a lot of my fans end up just becoming my friends because I do care about their lives and I do want to interact with them and get to know them.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a super important thing. And I think that's great that you try to really connect with the people that listen to you, because it's pretty, I think it's a pretty big honor that people will take time out of their day to listen to an artist. So I think if someone does take the time out of the day, you should truly appreciate and kind of give back to them what they're giving to you. So I want to know what the most challenging parts of connecting with your audience can be. So obviously, kind of like Sarah was mentioning, there's some times when, where you're at a different bar and things aren't really fitting because it's just a different vibe or different energy. What makes it difficult for you to connect with your audience? I want to kind of know. Sarah, did you want to start off again of maybe what makes it challenging for you guys when you're playing sometimes?
Sure. Yeah, I think, sometimes, you guys have probably all experienced it. We're just like, you're not really sure what it is, but the energy is just not right. And you feel like you're just like a pointless, like there's no reason to be there. And I feel like we've been really lucky because we're a duo that we've kind of done this thing where we're like, okay, what if we just interact with each other as if everyone was enjoying themselves totally, like you kind of just pretend, and we sing to each other and we make little jokes to each other. And it's not always that easy because sometimes, we're playing 6 nights a week in different places, and sometimes that's another thing that is hard with connecting, is that if we're not in it, if we're just like exhausted, or we just got in a fight, or we just drove 8 hours and then something went wrong, there's always external factors. But I think, it's just like kind of taking it in. It's very important to connect with your audience, and then it's also important not to overthink it. And if they're not having a good time, let yourself not have a good time. And remember, like, why do I do this? Because I love playing music. So just be out there, love playing music.
I feel like I've played so many shows where I've seen, a really grumpy old man in the back, and he's just sitting there like, I'm like, okay, he looks like he's having a terrible time. But then at the end of the show, he's like, wow, you were great. And I'm like,
that was the best. I'm like,
okay.
I thought you hated me.
Yeah. So I think that's a good point that you mentioned. Like, you're not there to please other people per se. It's about the music, right? So.
And you also, like you mentioned, don't actually know what people are thinking. So you kind of have to put on the best show no matter what.
Regardless. Yeah, absolutely.
I will contribute. I'll say I've done some of the 3-hour shows where I don't get a single clap. No one comes up and tips me. And eventually I just drift off into my own headspace and just kind of, I stop, like I realize I'm there, but I just do my own thing. And then it's like, as soon as I end the show, everyone's coming up to me and tipping me. And it's like, wow, they were enjoying it all along. They just weren't showing it. And sometimes that can be tricky to decipher and work through.
Yeah, absolutely. 100%. Carina, what do you think? What are some most challenging parts for you when you're trying to connect with your audience and maybe it's not going so well?
Yeah, just on what Sarah said as well, I think it's our own insecurities often come through. Like you can't know what people are thinking. And like we all mentioned that sometimes the situation or the setup is just not really conducive to a whole cheer. You've got to really see the context for what it is. We've also done a lot of corporate entertainment, you know, where you perform at corporate parties and they kind of look at you and they go like, wow, that's cool or whatever, and then they look away and they don't respond for the rest of the time, or they look at you and they say, whoa, you guys are so pretty, and then you're like, but hello, we actually, you know, making music. And I think it's just really about putting your ego aside and seeing it for what it is often. In other cases, I find the actual space can make a big difference. I've played in spaces and venues where the lighting is just not great. Either I can't see the audience. I like to be able to see their faces. I mean, it doesn't have to be completely clear, but I'd like to kind of have some visual connection to the audience. Yeah. When they're completely in the dark, I have no idea. You know, it's it can be very difficult. It's a guessing game. Yeah. And sometimes, it's just got so much to do with lighting and space. Sometimes you'd be on a stage, I mean, like a school type setup, but for a proper concert, you know, and where it feels so bland and unglamorous, and the space doesn't suit the music and the feel, and that often is challenging. And then I often have the impression that people aren't enjoying it because I'm insecure again. It's that insecurity of like, this just doesn't feel right. And like you guys have always also said, and afterwards people would come and like, you just changed my life. Like,
exactly.
Great. But yeah, it is a blessing to be in a group as well. Often when I do my own solo gigs, it's quite hard to sort of transcend the sometimes boredom, you know, when there's no response. It's not always easy. It's not always easy to find that inspiration within yourself, because the communication, the energy is so important. But yeah, when I'm on stage with my two buddies, nothing can really stop us. We have each other, and it's awesome. And often the audience would also respond to that. They respond to just this energy that we've got, and they can't help to feel it too, and they can't help to feel happy.
Yeah, 100%. It's really hard to connect when you're a solo artist, for sure. And I know before I joined the band I'm in now, like we're a duo, so there's myself and Marissa, but we just feed off of each other, and we're like the same human beings. So we just, whatever I spit at her, she spits back at me, and we're like, okay, we're feeling awkward, but we're gonna still do this. So I 100% think that's so true. Like if it's compared to when you're solo, it can be really, really tough to transmit that energy. 100%. Exactly. I want to know which artists or celebrities or musicians or whatnot, which ones inspire you by their ability to connect well with their fans? Who are your favorite artists that do this well? Amanda, I want to start with you. We'll kind of go backwards here. Who are some artists that inspire you with their stage presence?
Stage presence.
And I guess not really stage presence, but their ability to connect with their fans is what I'm saying.
I think that's something, I gotta say, Taylor Swift does a great job with it. Some people like her, some people hate her, but if you just, even online, the way she interacts with her fans, it's so above and beyond, and I think it's very special. I think it's something that not only inspired me as a kid, but still inspires me. I also have to say, Steven Tyler from Aerosmith. I actually had a personal experience with him, and he is just above and beyond. He's so kind. If he knows you love his music, he will just sit and chat with you, and he doesn't make a big deal out of it. He doesn't talk to you like he's up here and you're down here. You're just two human beings having a conversation, and it's very special.
Yeah, that's incredible. I'm a huge Taylor Swift fan, so I 100% agree with your choices. And I've actually heard that about Steven as well, that he's a really, really nice guy. Carina, who are some of your artists that kind of inspire you, that they're able to connect with their audience?
Well, sorry, as an instrumentalist, I'm going to go with Carlos Santana.
Yeah, that's awesome.
He's my hero. I think he just, whatever he does on a person-to-person level, is not, even regardless, just the way he plays, you cannot but be intrigued. You can't be anything but be glued to his melodies and his phrasing. Yeah, I mean, he sings with a guitar better than 99% of singers can actually vocalize.
Yeah.
So yeah, just that ability to grip the audience in his sheer musicality is something that is hugely inspiring for me. And I just yeah, phrasing and melody is everything in instrumental music. So he's got my vote.
And how about you, Sarah? Who are some of your inspirations?
Yeah, one big one for us is there's a musician, his name is John Craigie, and he's local to Portland, but he's from California, and he's been opening for Jack Johnson and playing the festival circuit and stuff. But he is a solo singer-songwriter that is he's known for his storytelling and his like humor, and it's almost like seeing him is almost like watching stand-up comedy with music. And we've always been really inspired by him because it's almost like that is the main draw, you know, like he's a good singer and he's a great songwriter, but the way that he connects with the audience was actually kind of the template for how we wanted to start doing it as well. So yeah, so he's like the main one I think for us. And then my other one is Delta Ray, which is actually coincidentally a band that Taylor Swift discovered originally, and they just got rid of their label. And I feel like since they got rid of their label, they've been really connecting to the fan base and really, you know, and that's more of like an online thing that I see about the ways that they're, you know, trying to get their fans involved. And they've been doing these like dance challenges for their fans. And then they like, you know, they'll put your dance on their story. And, you know, so just those are kind of two different ways. Like John Craigie to me is very in person, like he's incredibly, you know, good at connecting. And Delta Ray, I feel like has done a really great job of it online.
That's so cool. I got to check him out. Now I really need to know who that is. So I have one last question for you ladies here before we head out for the day. What advice would you give to a new artist about connecting to their audience members during live shows? What kind of wisdom would you want to impose onto them? Let's start with Carina, if you're okay with starting. What advice would you give maybe to another instrumentalist who's just starting out and is like, how do I connect? This is so hard. I don't have a voice to connect with. I'm just using, you know, an instrument. What would you say to them?
Yeah. Look, everything we've said, I think it's egos aside. I think ego is such a big stumbling block for a performer. And once you're able to really get into the essence of the music and of the space, then it should no longer be a concern because then you are connected. And it's not necessarily about what the other person is thinking at all. It's really just about getting in whichever way you can, you know. And it's, again, it's not something that you really can express, but it's something that you'll feel happening if you really focused on it. And I think the essence really is in just making beautiful music. And I know it sounds very kind of airy-fairy, but hitting that sort of lane of energy where we're communicating, that's that. And like I said, I can't really express it, but if you really zoned in on it, you can feel it, and you can feel when you've got someone on board, and you can feel when that energy builds and it builds and it builds, and it's just like about to explode. It's pretty awesome.
And how about yourself, Sarah? What advice would you give to someone struggling with that same thing?
I would say, like, I feel like this is the opposite thing that people normally say, but I would say, like, embrace your mistakes. And like, I feel like when I was growing up as like trained singing, like they were always like, don't ever make it look like you messed up, because the audience doesn't need to know that you did it wrong. And I would say the opposite. I think what has really helped Scott and I is to like make fun of our mistakes and kind of point them out and be like, you know, and I feel like that the audience doesn't want you to mess up, or like they don't want you to feel awkward. And the more you feel awkward and uncomfortable, the more uncomfortable and awkward they feel. We've all been in that situation. When you're nervous, the audience is like, oh no, please don't mess up because I can't handle it. So we have kind of found this way of just like allowing our mistakes to be what actually connects us and humanizes us. And it gives the audience a chance to relax and take a break and not worry about us, because they know that if we mess up, we're going to be fine. It won't be awkward for anyone. And then all of a sudden, you know, I think always any way you can humanize yourself through vulnerability like that is a really important tactic. And I would even just start with that. Like if that's the first thing people hear, I feel like that's the best thing you can do.
Yeah. And how about for you, Amanda?
All right. I kind of have 3 things, but I'll try to keep them brief. The first one would be, don't worry so much about feeling socially awkward. I know that's something I struggled with, but if people are coming up to talk to you, they probably already like you and already like the show you put on. So at that point, just kind of allow yourself to shine through. The second point I would say for a new artist, and this is embarrassing, this is a mistake that I made, don't go out there making it look like you're looking for fans. Like there were times I probably came off as annoying or desperate because I wanted fans, I wanted to be famous, and that was when I was much younger. But if you just kind of just act like a person and know that everyone else is a person, it's going to be much more natural and a much more authentic connection. And those are the ones that will be more meaningful and last longer. The final advice I'd like to give is sometimes, and not always with men, but especially with men sometimes, I think I wouldn't always set boundaries because I wanted to be friendly, I wanted to be cool, I wanted to be approachable. But if someone is making you uncomfortable, it is okay to set those boundaries. Don't worry about what they're going to think of you, because those aren't the kind of fans you want, and your safety is the most important thing.
Yeah. That's actually, I would never even think of that as a piece of advice, but that's a great piece of advice because
I learned
you
the
don't,
hard way.
yeah, you don't think about it until you experience that emotion. And I've had, actually my band member had an experience like that too. So that's a very good point. Thank you, ladies, for sharing your advice. It was so great to kind of hear wisdom from each of your perspectives. So that was our last question for the day. We are unfortunately out of time. We're so lucky to have had you all on the show today. If you guys are at home watching this roundtable with Vienna Whyte on YouTube, make sure to like, subscribe, and hit the bell button so you can be notified about our shows. We post 2 shows daily, Monday to Friday, so there's lots of content for you to watch. If you want to hear this conversation via podcast format, search on Spotify, Vienna Whyte Podcast, and you will find it there. So before we sign out, could I get you all to again say your stage name and where our audience can find you on social media? So Sarah, can you sign yourself out?
Yeah, so I'm Sarah Vitort. I'm primarily with the band Fox and Bones. We're at Fox and Bones on social media and foxandbones.com on our website.
Fantastic. And Carina, can you sign yourself out?
Yeah, I'm Carina Bruwer. You can find me on Instagram, Carina Bruwer, CarinaBruwer, or my website, carina.co.za. And I'm with the band Sterling EQ, which you'll also find online and on Instagram.
Fantastic. And Amanda?
My name is Amanda McCarthy. All of my social media is at Amanda McMusic. That's Amanda MC Music. And you can also find my website at amandamccarthy.com.
Perfect. Well, thank you, ladies, so much. It was great meeting you all today. I hope to hear from you soon. Bye-bye.